If you need immediate help, please call the National Substance Abuse and Mental Health Hotline at 1-800-662-HELP.
Bottle of wine, fruit of the vine. When you gonna let me get sober? Let me go home and start over.
Welcome to Clean and Sober Radio. Brought to you in part by Jefferson University Hospitals and Thomas Jefferson University, providing excellent clinical and compassionate care in the Philadelphia region. A proven leader in healthcare and education since 1825. And now, here are your hosts, Gary Hendler and Mark Sigmund.
Hey, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show. Clean and Sober Radio features real people with real stories about addiction to drugs and alcohol. Mark Sigmund, what do you have this week new in recovery news?
So we got some more good news. The CDC has come out with a report on Thursday about U.S. overdose deaths last year. Preliminary data shows that roughly 97,000 deaths happened last year, but it means that roughly 16,000 people, less people died than the year before. Interestingly, prior to 2023, they were seeing overdoses skyrocket 30,000 deaths a year for the past 4 years. So What they're saying is the tide may be turning. They're saying they're also seeing some less potent fentanyl on the streets in some areas, which might be feeding into this. They also attribute it to the wide availability of naloxone and also treatment. But you look at it and you're like 97,000, like it's atrocious. 97,000 deaths a year, you know?
It's more than that anyway. It's got to be more than that.
Absolutely.
And I have a lot of trouble. First, what's the source of this?
So the CDC, Centers for Disease Control.
It's legitimate, but I still have issues of how they calculate overdose going down, you know? It's weird.
Yeah, but it's just, the numbers, in the 80s and stuff, you'd hear, 10,000 a year and things like that. These numbers still are just way out of the park.
Did they talk about numbers back in the, I can't remember when I was coming up. You know, how many people died of Quaaludes or how many people died?
I don't remember because I was so young.
And so stoned.
Maybe, that too. But it's very possible. But I'll have to go back and try to look for some numbers and bring them to Clean and Sober Radio so we can compare.
All right, that's fabulous. Listen, when we're taking our first break, our guest, we're so happy that Chris Therien is with us. And he is a National Hockey League player he's done everything. Okay?
Sure
and
has.
We're going to get into his whole history when we get back, and we're not going to embarrass him one bit, are we? We'll be right back.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
A cancer diagnosis can knock the wind out of you. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health can help. Our brand new Asplund Cancer Pavilion brings you 86,000 square feet of cancer-fighting science for truly comprehensive care. Backed by the strength of an NCI-designated cancer center. Call 1-800-JEFF now. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health. The power to out-science cancer.
Hey, everybody, this is former Philadelphia Flyer Chris Therien, and you're listening to Clean and Sober Radio.
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
You can always enjoy the show Clean and Sober Radio on WWDB in Philadelphia, 97.5 FM High Def 2, WGAC in Augusta, Georgia, and WNBR in Tampa, Florida. Hey, welcome back to Clean and Sober Radio. Well, our guest, Chris Therien, is with us again. We're a great fan of his, but I think, Chris, you're a great fan of us.
Love you guys.
We love you
thanks.
too.
Thank you, guys.
We love you, too. So let me just give a little brief history, and then we'll get into stuff. So I'm not going to say the year you were born, but you were born December 14th, okay? Canadian former professional ice hockey defenseman, played 11 seasons in the National Hockey League and with the Philadelphia Flyers and Dallas Stars between 95 and 96, and you can tell the rest of the story. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Gary.
So you grew up in Canada.
I did.
Ottawa.
Ottawa.
Were all your friends like ice? My envision of people in Canada, they play hockey, ice hockey.
There was nothing else to do.
Nothing else.
Go to school, eat, and play hockey.
That was it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was a different setup. Me and Mark talk about this sometimes.
Yeah.
He's in his men's leagues. He's trying to get me to go out and play with him, but
Yes, we are.
we are, and but it was different though. I mean, like you'd go eat dinner. It was like dark at 4:15.
Yeah.
And you'd eat dinner at 5 o'clock, and I was at an outdoor like community rink that was built. They literally have the fire hydrants where you'd plug the the big turn key onto it, and you'd hook the hose in, and you'd ice the rink yourself.
Really?
Yeah, you'd flood it yourself, and it was so cold. I mean, it would freeze in 20 seconds. And so we'd be out there. I'd be out there with my dad, and all the kids would meet. Some kids I played with. I played organized hockey too. But and then Ottawa was also famous for the Rideau Canal, which is the longest skating rink in the world. So
How long is that? How long?
I think it's 6 kilometers. So about 4 miles, which is long.
Serious?
Yeah, people get on the west end of Ottawa and they'll skate to work in the east end of Ottawa, in downtown Ottawa. That's how they get to work.
And you skated to school?
Yeah, well, what happened was my dad. No, see, I lived so I could run to the canal to one of the entrances. What they do is they drain it. It's called the Rideau Canal, and they drain it in the wintertime. So it's probably about 8 feet at its height, and then they bring it down to 3 feet. And what they do is they actually go in the middle of the night after everyone skated on it, and they drain with water from the bottom, and they reflood the top of the canal with the leftover water from the bottom. They've been doing it for years. I mean, 100 years. And so my dad would drop me off at one end in downtown, and he'd tell me, I'll meet you down at Dow's Lake, which is where the canal ended, and the locks start, which take you into the Ottawa River. And I'd go down there and skate, and my dad would pick me up. I mean, there's no way that you can compete with that. You're just skating the whole time.
When did you start skating?
I had skates when I was 2.
And did you have those kid skates with the two things on?
Yeah, you tie them over your boots.
Were you a tall kid?
You know what? No, I mean, my mom and dad weren't like really, really tall people, considering that I'm 6'5" and as big as I am.
And so 6'5", when you're on skates, you're close to 7 feet?
I don't think 7 feet. I think it's like 3 inches. So probably like 6'8", 6'9". Remember Zdeno Chara? I mean, that guy, he was 6'9". He was at least 7 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you grew up in Canada. So what was your family like?
Great family. Yeah. Mom
loving
and dad.
family.
Loving family. Good sister. Yeah. I mean, I lost my sister in 2006, which was a terrible, terrible hit for all of us. It was a sudden cardiac passing, and no one knew. She was 32 years old, 5'8", 130 pounds. You never would have saw that coming. And
was that the reason why you got sober in 2000?
It was. I was already on my way to getting sober, and then that happened, and it really. I mean, it was like dealing with one thing of dealing with my own addiction, and then here I was dealing with the death of my sister.
You were tested right away, weren't you?
Right in the heart of it. Like there was no other way out of it. So I had to deal with my own issues, which was it was almost like the day that she passed was the absolute height of my alcohol disorder.
Really?
Yeah. And
so in a way, your sister saved you. In a way,
I was on my way. I mean, it's certainly, dealing with a death like that when you're as weak as I was at the time.
Yeah.
You find strength, through whatever it is, and I was able to find that.
So your sister, the only sibling?
Yeah, my only sibling.
So you grew up then as an only child, basically?
Well, no, I was married. By that time I'd married and had kids and everything, and so I was 34 years old when she passed. It was my career. I'd already played my last game in the NHL when she'd passed. So I had, but again, it was just something you just can't prepare for. But, that was the time I was trying to get my life clean. And I was actually, I'd already called Karen and said, hey, I'm ready to get help. And I called the league. And then I said I was prepared to go away like 10 days later. And I got a call about my sister. I had to call the league and say, you're not going to believe this. And I remember the doctor for the league said, I'll never forget it. He said, I need you to do me a favor. He says, you got to promise me you're not going to stop drinking.
Promise you you're not going to stop?
While I was going through.
Why? Because that enhanced your playing?
No, see, I was done playing. This was in June.
Okay.
What he meant was I was so far advanced with my alcohol, he didn't want me to try to be a savior, to be like, get clean right away because it's your sister's funeral.
I get it. Okay.
And he's basically saying, you're in such bad shape that I need you to manage yourself.
That's very interesting. And and did you? Is that what you did?
I did. Yeah, I had to. I mean, it was no other way. You know how it is. I mean, when you're in that hole, in that hellhole, your body's calling for it anyway. And there was no way around it. I had no way out of it at that time.
Were you just a drinker?
I was just a drinker.
No pills?
No pills. Yeah,
no
I went to Karen. A guy asked me the same question when I went in, Gary, one day. The guy was at the head of Karen. I was sitting in a chair. I mean, like I said, my sister was gone 2 weeks. Here I was. My career was over. Nobody wanted me around. I didn't want myself around. I became an annoyance and a hindrance to my own person.
Yeah.
And I remember a guy walked up to me. I was sitting on a chair just by myself, kind of looking into nowhere, and he goes, "What are you here for?" And I said, "Drinking." He goes, "What else?" And I said, no, just drinking. I've never done anything else. And the guy looks at me, he goes, a purist.
A purist.
He goes, you don't exist anymore. so I kind of was sitting there going, well, really? And then, I heard a guy next to me, and he looked at the guy another guy sitting in the chair. He goes, what are you in here for? He goes, heroin. And I'm like, wow, a heroin addict.
Wow.
I've never seen one of them before.
Right.
That's how it shows you the culture of my hockey and drinking, which is very much part of the culture.
Yeah.
But that was my drug of choice.
We had to think, at least for me coming up, you could do anything, but heroin, that was over the line. That was the low of low people that did heroin.
Yeah, right. But again, it falls under that stigma, right?
Yeah.
And again, when you realize like where I'm at now and where you guys are and people that have been in sobriety, you understand that a drug is a drug, and it doesn't. It just happens to be the lane that you happen to fall in.
Yeah.
And I'm not impervious to that lane. I just didn't happen to ride in that lane.
Yeah.
And didn't you set? You set a lot of hockey records, right? But didn't you set a record at Cairn Foundation?
I did. It's still a record to this day.
Of your blood alcohol level? Is that what it was?
Yeah. That's why the doctor, when you realize when he said to me, don't stop drinking. Don't be a hero. Yeah, when I went away, when I went into Cairn, I checked in that day, July 7th of 2006, my blood alcohol level was a 0.63.
So you should have really been dead.
Should have easily. But I was walking and talking and standing like I am right now. Like I didn't have a slur in my word. And the joke was if a cop had ever pulled me over and he had an instant breathalyzer on the road, he would have just said, go ahead. Something's wrong with this machine. There's no way that this could possibly be.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because of your body mass?
I think it was because of my tolerance I'd built up where I just, vodka became my end game choice. And I was morning, noon, and night for at least 5 months.
Did you really like the taste of that?
No, I didn't. But, thank God no one else could smell it on you, though, right, Gary?
I don't know.
Which is the biggest lie in the world. So I was like, drink vodka, no one can smell it. Like, really? Yeah. All right. Because I still smell people now when we deal with, in our work, they'll come in and I can sure smell vodka. So I don't know what I was thinking all those years trying to hide it with a shot of vodka and a Tic Tac.
Denial.
Yeah, and then denial.
Totally in denial. All right, so you grew up in Canada. Parents were fabulous.
Great people.
When did you guys move to United States?
They didn't. I went away when I was 15 years old. I went to prep school in the United States. I went to Northwood Prep.
Why?
I just to get a different look. My dad believed in me as a young hockey player, and he wanted me to try to have the best chance I could to go to a U.S. college. He played U.S. college. He went to St. Lawrence in Canton. He was a hockey player as well. So he had the dreams and visions and the aspirations for his son, and he put me on the right path. He didn't push me in that way, but he put me on the right path for me to figure out my destiny myself.
If you weren't as talented as you were or are in the sport of hockey, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
That's a great question, and one I really don't know. I honestly, God, I have no idea because I don't know where. I went to college because of hockey. I went away to prep school because of hockey. Something tells me in my life, the things I've been through and my journey itself, I would have figured something out. But, it was hockey since I was a kid, and I didn't know I'd make the NHL. I didn't know I'd make the NHL till I stepped on the ice for my first game, and then I still didn't believe it. Really? I really didn't. Yeah.
What was that like? It must have been.
Yeah, it was like getting to I could imagine it'd be like getting to the top of Mount Everest. You're there, and then the emotions, the range of emotions that go through when you get your drive. I remember driving over the Walt Whitman in my first game, like thinking to myself, "Oh my God, like
Is this for real?
I did it. Like I did it. And I hope I can stay. But even if I got one game and that was the end of my career, I got there. I could say I did it. And but no, I didn't. I went on. I was one of the very few from my town and my age group that ever went as far as I did and had as long a career as I did.
Were you getting high while you were with the Flyers?
Not high, just drinking.
Yeah.
I was a social drinker, but my last year was bad. Yeah,
because we had Bernie Perron on here. He said he was loaded every single game.
Yeah, I was. It was. Yeah, there's a different perspective to that, and there is a game where I actually talk about it where I had to drink in a game. And that was a December 2005 game against Calgary. And I tell the story with complete clarity, but I remember at the end, we were tied 0-0.
Yeah.
And, and I used to look and think to myself, I was the only guy that ever did this. And I guess I probably wasn't, because if I had to do it, I was doing it. I wasn't doing it because I wanted to enjoy a drink. I was doing it at that time because I was trying to survive the night. I was trying to get the shakes off me, the withdrawal. And so what happened was it was the end of the second period. It was a 0-0 tie. And I said, I'm not going to be able to play the third period. Like, what do I do? And I was like, when I talk about being a purist and being totally dedicated to my game, I was like, it came time to play. I might have had some bad games some nights, but I was ready to play. You know, I was focused on what I was supposed to do. Whether or not it was a good game or not, I was always tried to be ready to play. And so that night, I remember sitting to myself saying, I'm shaking. I'm like, we're going to lose. Like I was playing significant minutes still. This is my last year. And so I ran out to my car, put my sneakers on. I had my hockey pants on and my shin guards on with my socks. And I went out to my car and I pulled out like a water bottle that had vodka in it. And I just chugged the whole thing. And I went back out on the ice. And I don't say this like it's a joke, but I was probably the best player on the ice in the third period. And we won the game in overtime.
Really?
And part of me when I got in the car after that game was just absolutely devastating for me because I realized all the work that I'd done and all the focus that I'd put into my sport to getting there, to staying there, to the love that I had for that sport. I felt like I really betrayed it, and I betrayed myself in that moment.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so ironic that a month later my career was over. I had a concussion again, but it was coupled with drinking. It was just coupled with a bad lifestyle. And, I probably could have played more years in the league, but I think after my sister passed, which I didn't know at that point, that was before my sister even had known that there was an issue. I don't think I would have been able to play past what happened to her anyway. It was too much for me at that time in my life. And my biggest focus at that time was truly to be a dad and to try to give my kids the person they deserved.
Yeah. Hey, if you're just joining us now, if you're listening to us, if you're watching us, our guest today is Chris Therien, National Hockey League superstar. Come on, really. Right? You know hockey.
A legend in Philadelphia.
A legend.
I mean, literally a legend and just a great defenseman.
Thanks. I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah.
You know what?
It's true.
Yeah. And being a hockey player is one thing, and what I do now, we talk about it more, is more, I think, what my life is now, and giving back to others and trying to find them a place that has as much hope in it as mine does right now. So, but I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you.
You know, go ahead, Mark.
Well, I just had one question for you because I've always been curious about this. It's a 85 game season.
82, yeah.
82, and you're on the road and you're away from family. And what's that like? Is that difficult? Do a lot of players kind of go and just start partying a lot? I mean, how do you get through that? Because that's got to be a long haul.
There's always a faction of guys based on your age.
Yeah.
If you're 30, I was 34, 35 when I was done. Mm-hmm. And so what was interesting with that was, if you see the 22-year-olds on the team, like at that point in my career, later in my career, I prefer going out and having like a beer and watching another late game of sports. Where the 22-year-olds, if you're staying overnight, they're out like at a dance bar. You're like a nightclub, right?
Yeah.
Where I don't want anything to do with a nightclub. Like I'm just, I had business to get to, and it was probably a few beers at the bar. At a nightclub, you got to go through people and wait too much. And there was like 5 or 8 guys like us that would go out and do that. And then the younger kids would gravitate more towards being younger people.
Yeah, absolutely. Our number here is 1-888-728-9941. Here's a great chance to speak with Chris Therien. Don't often get a chance to speak with a star, right?
Yeah, and Chris played with all the players in Philadelphia.
So let me ask you: Is he at the quality of National Hockey League? This guy right here.
He knows what he's talking about. I know he pays a lot of attention to hockey. Mark does.
You think he missed out? Like he could have been one of the great ones, or what?
If you ask him, yes. Yeah, and that's okay, Gary. It's okay. It's unseen talent. That's what it is.
Yes, they never figured it out when I rode the bench in college. You know what I mean? They never figured that out in college. My coach.
Were you not liked? Is that why you were held back?
It must have been because my talent was just off the charts, and I should have been playing against Gretzky like you, Chris.
Right.
But,
that was I don't know if we're going to break, but that was probably the coolest thing I think I could safely say that. My first year in the NHL was a lockout shortened season, and we didn't play the Western Conference. But 95, 96, it was early I believe in the fall that year, and we're in the LA Forum, and we're going out. I know Gretzky's on the other team, right? I mean, I have stories like yelling Wayne Gretzky's name at the Montreal Forum when I was like 9 years old, when he was probably a first or second year. I'm like, Wayne, can I please get your autograph? Please, please. I was holding the magazine, and here he is. He signs it, right? And then, skip ahead 15 years to there I am, like there's Wayne Gretzky on the other side. Did you tell him
that story? Did you ever tell him that?
I never had a chance to tell him that because I'm sure there's probably a ton of guys that had a lot of those similar, stories with them, because there's a lot of guys that you played with that were like Paul Coffey was my boyhood idol. I ended up playing with him.
Amazing.
And it was like just a great. But Gretzky, the first time I played him, I remember saying like, "Holy yes!"
Yeah.
Like there's Gretzky on the other side of the ice going for a war up. I'm like, I'm going to play Gretzky in an organized game in the NHL. Like to me, that's
surreal, man.
It was kind of crazy because it was, I got to play against the greatest that ever played, and that was really, really cool.
And how good was he playing against him?
He was everything you could have imagined. He was a slippery. I mean, it was almost creepy how good he was.
And he's not a big guy.
No,
you know what I mean?
Like my dad used to say, like, there's nothing about Wayne Gretzky that makes any kind of sense at all. Like, if you saw him, there's no, like, he's got, like, the Patrick Mahomes dad bod.
Yeah.
There's no, like, probably didn't pick up a weight his whole life, but you put him on the ice and he's like a Mensa.
And he
just
pizza.
Gets it. He just does whatever, did what he wanted.
Yeah.
Put up points and numbers that no one will ever break. Remarkable.
We're talking with the great, great Chris Therien. Listen, if you're listening or watching a show, whatever, and if you believe you have a problem with addiction or you know somebody has a problem, please reach out to the mental health and hotline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-HELP. And somebody will pick up the phone there, trained person that will be able to send you to the right place to get treatment. And Mark, you have another very important number.
Another important number is 988, and that is this National Suicide Hotline. If you're having thoughts or you're feeling hopeless, give that number a call and you will get help. Again, that's 988, the National Suicide Hotline.
And, some of these lines, I know they're very important, but when you're in the midst of your addiction or you're in such a state where you're thinking about killing yourselves, I don't know if you're capable of calling a phone number. I don't know.
Yeah, and I tell people, ask somebody, right? Like people are scared that they're going to ask somebody and they're going to go and do it. But literally, if you think somebody's at that spot, ask them, talk to them about it.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of coworkers before where we had people that were really military that were really struggling. And I remember one of our coworkers said, "Go home. We'll see you in a bit, and please don't kill yourself." Like, it was that straightforward where you're saying that to a human being, and the guy's like, "No, I won't." Yeah. But you knew that was part of his thought process, and that's just heartbreaking, when you see someone that's that fragile. But I agree with you. Who's going to pick up the number? But at least it's there.
That's right.
At least it's there.
That's right. Yeah. All right, let's do this. A lot of people are watching us right now, okay, Mark? And let's. We didn't announce it. We want to know where you're looking at us from, but let's go through some of these people. Judge Christopher Maddox is watching us from Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania. Our judge.
Nice.
Laura Christina is watching. Marjorie Hendler is watching. Linda Migalore Quinn is on here. Bill Cuttrove. You see, Chris, I'm the worst with reading these
with the reading the names.
Oh man,
we botch names.
Ken Garrity Jr. is watching. John Knightley, Mike Burke. Stephen Ellis, Mike Tomlinson, John Logue, Rich Moyer, Ed Zazuski.
Good old Brant Norton.
Brant Norton listening.
Yes.
Nice.
He's watching us.
Good job.
Jeff Weaver. Dennis Kilgore. I am so messed up. Bonnie Schuster. You know her?
I've heard that name.
Have you?
Where have I heard that name?
It's the worst, isn't it? When you
know it, and I'm like, I know that.
You were married to her. Your addiction.
That's right.
He's the worst for that. It'll be like, where do you know them from?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah. We'll get to the rest of them. Let's do this. We're going to take another break. We'll be back with Chris. And here's your opportunity, 1-888-728-9941. And when we come back, we're going to ask Chris some things that I don't think anybody's ever asked them before.
Ooh, uh-oh.
But they're clean and they're nice, okay?
Good.
Cool.
All right, we'll be right back.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
A cancer diagnosis can knock the wind out of you. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health can help. Our brand new Asplund Cancer Pavilion brings you 86,000 square feet of cancer-fighting science for truly comprehensive care. Backed by the strength of an NCI-designated cancer center. Call 1-800-JEFF now. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health. The power to out-science cancer.
This is Elvin Bishop, and I listen to Clean and Sober Radio.
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
Oh, yeah, we're back.
We're back.
So what's It's great having him on again, isn't it?
It sure is. And, I'm actually working
Well,
with
yeah,
him
I wanted
now.
to bring that up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your company now. Let's talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
What you're doing now. Mark is involved with you, and what's going on?
So, when I got out of hockey, I'm not out of hockey anymore. I'm actually back in. I was out for a short time. Now I'm back. I do a podcast at every Flyers home game called Snow the Goalie. And
Snow the Goalie?
Snow the Goalie. And it's totally Flyers centric. It's all Philadelphia Flyers. We have just great information, good pipelines to the management. We get good stories, and we follow the team. And I give my completely unfiltered knowledge of the team as it currently sits. So it's been really cool. Keith Jones, good friend, former teammate of mine, brought me back in to do that. So that's what I do at my night job. But my most important job I do is getting people help in the recovery community. So I'm a partner at Pennsylvania Recovery Center. We have currently 3 locations, one in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Center City, Philadelphia, which is the one I'm primarily with.
Yeah.
And that's on just at the entranceway to Chinatown, right off of Vine Street.
Yeah.
And then we have our 3rd location, which is out in Phoenixville. There's a new building out there. That was kind of the maiden ship, if you will, that Branton Norton, who was the founding CEO, that's where they opened. And I kind of joined with them about 3 years ago. So it's worked out well. They have great intentions like we do. And then we were looking for somebody to kind of come in and take over our program and run it as some job changes. And I mean, me and Mark became close as I got into this industry 4 or 5 years ago. And I actually offered Mark the job, and he accepted.
He did. After we went fishing.
Yeah, we went fishing, and I said, listen, he was looking at something. I said, well, we have an opening coming, and I tell you what, we'd really like to, if we can get you to the number you need and get you where you're happy.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you because having good people like Mark there. I mean, he's as good as there is in the industry, and we know
Thank
that
you.
from talking to people in the industry. So
Oh, you didn't talk to me.
I didn't, but
No,
I didn't
you
need to.
got the
Gary
right
was
guy.
already well vetted.
Yeah, you got the right guy.
I did, and we know that we're super proud. We love Mark as a human being. Our patients, clients, whatever you want to call them, they love him too. And so it's been a perfect marriage, and I hope he's there with us for a really long time.
The
Thank
voice
you.
you're hearing, everybody, is Chris Therien, hockey player, National Hockey League, Flyers, Dallas Stars. I don't mention.
Dallas Stars
guest-
was 11 games. Like I hardly even remember. It was a hiccup.
I never heard of him.
Yeah.
Where are they from?
Yeah,
Dallas?
yeah. They're not bad. they are a team in the league. Yeah.
They used to be the Minnesota
Minnesota
North Stars, right?
Yeah.
You were a badass, weren't you? When
Not really. I mean, I was
Did
a
you
good.
beat
I was
people up on
I
the
was
ice?
not. I was not. I tell people I had the odd fight, but I was not a fighter. Some people say I should have fought more, but you can only do what you're made to do. And there's guys that there were guys out there that were paid to fight, and they were serious
Really?
fighters. Oh yeah. Like there were some of the, I believe, probably some of the toughest men on the planet when I played in that league. And,
were you intimidated ever?
I think I absolutely would have to say, yeah. I mean, that's part of the game. I think anyone that tells you they weren't intimidated is a liar.
Right. Right.
I mean, it just is. I mean, when you're going in, like I always tell a story about going to I had to take a run at a guy like Bob Probert. And
My gosh.
You got to play the Bob Probert was the ultimate goon. He was what the word goon probably would stem from. And I ran him over one day, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to pay for this somehow because Bob Probert wants to grab me. I'm going to have to just hang on tight. Anyway, no, and he just said, "Great hit, kid." But I mean, again, but you're dealing with like there were guys that I played with, Dave Brown. I mean, some of these guys were just absolute. Craig Berube, head coach of Toronto now. It was a different era of hockey, a totally different era of hockey. But it was also one that was fun too because you didn't just talk about the game itself. You were talking about the fights as well. Who won the fights?
Did
it was
you
a
lose
different
any teeth or anything?
I had my teeth chipped, but I've actually never had a lost tooth.
Wow.
Like a whole tooth, yeah. And I was taller. Taller guys usually don't lose their teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Because they hit you in the neck. Or
Yeah,
your
they get
chest.
it here because if you're going to get your stick up high, as you're saying, you're getting it back up to 6'5" before you have your skates on. So.
And I got to say, Chris, I think you would be a fighter if Crosby was around back then.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're not going to fight Crosby, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I played against him for a year.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So it makes me not feel too old.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you went into treatment in 2006, was there an actual event that made you say, "I've had enough"?
It's just my life. Yeah, it wasn't one event. It was just the way I was going.
I mean, we do have moments of clarity at some point with this.
Then I had a massive moment of clarity at some point because I realized I couldn't live like that. Like I wasn't going to live. You know, if my blood alcohol was a 0.63 that one day, it was a 0.63 every day.
Yeah.
You know, and so no, I mean, I had young kids. I'm like, this is just insane. You know, I didn't sign up for that.
Did your wife, was she on you with this?
Yeah,
were any of your friends or anybody say, hey, Chris, you better
Yeah,
cut
a
this
couple
in.
people. I mean, I tried to hide it pretty good. And she just got fed up like any wife would be fed up at the time.
You think she was going to leave you if you didn't stop?
She probably should have. I mean, when you think about it.
Yeah. That's a rough thing.
It is, yeah.
It's rougher for the people that love you than us who abuse the stuff all the time.
No, I understand that. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into what you do to others and how that they perceive you. You know, I don't. That's one thing I am very clear-eyed. You know, like you can try. You can never really fully put the genie back in the bottle, but you can try to put the pieces back together. But you can't reverse a trend with addiction, and I understand that very clearly. You know, like there's some people that have had the opportunity to go at the other side and make amends to people, and then there's some people when you no matter what you do and how you live that lifestyle, they don't care for it. And there's no coming back from that.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You know, the residual effects Mark and I talk about sometimes, you know, we haven't used in decades and decades.
Right.
But, you know, it's kind of funny. If you're in somebody's house, in their bathroom, you just want to open up that medicine cabinet just for the hell of it to see what's in there.
Just to have a peek.
Mine's the freaking dispensaries now. You know, where you go buy them and you're driving and you're they're all over the place.
Yeah, now I saw one the other day on the Walt Whitman Bridge. It's like, come on to ours. It's a drive-through. I mean, let's make it any easier than that.
It's a drive-through.
Come on, it's a drive-through. It's like a Chick-fil-A. Just go right up there and pull in, get your weed, and away you go.
But it's getting better, right?
It's getting better.
It's getting better.
Oh, yeah. You know, the overdoses have dropped.
Yeah.
So, hockey player, you're still on the radio podcast. Is it a podcast?
The podcast. And don't forget, after I did hockey, you know, I'd been with the organization so long that, you know, I was lucky I had good people, too, that were working for the Flyers. And I had a broadcasting job with both radio and TV that lasted for another 15 years.
And you had your health.
And I got my health back. I mean, that's one thing that's great about not drinking anymore. Like, I don't wake up hungover. There's days I may wake up feeling crappy or just tired.
Yeah.
But it's not because of anything other than just perhaps the weather or
your age
or my age or what time I went to bed.
How old are you?
52.
Do you still have a lot of
Remember
aches from?
No, you tell me that till I meet a guy who's 32, and I'm like, you remember that?
Yeah. So you wrote a book.
I did.
Road to Redemption, Chris Therien. So where can this book be purchased?
Yeah, you can get it at a lot of places. I tell the people the best two places to get it is on Amazon. You can just search it under Road to Redemption, Chris Therien.
Right. And
then Triumph Books is the other one where they publish the book.
Okay. So this book is about your life, but basically it's about your addiction and coming back and what you're doing now. Right?
It is, yeah. It's got some hockey stories in it, and I can't get into it. You can't write a book and get in every single intricate detail of your life.
Right.
But it's I tell people all the time, there's really cool hockey stories in there, like my time with LeClaire or other guys or some of the funny things that I'd seen happen over the years. But the premise of the book wasn't about that. The premise was the book was to try to give an unfiltered and honest depiction of my life and what that looked like and what my recovery looks like and how hard that was. But as I have people will tell me, I love when someone comes to me and said, hey, Chris, I read your book and I have 9 months sober. And I'm like, that to me that's what it's all about. And I always tell people, if you're looking for a blueprint, it may not be written out like a handbook of here's what to do. But if you read the book and you pay attention to what I did, you will find the blueprint to your own sobriety.
When you were in treatment, did you have any hockey players come and visit you?
I didn't have anybody come and visit me.
No, what was that like? I
felt like it was almost like going to jail, and I almost felt like I deserved it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I did. I felt like,
you know, didn't feel deserted by your pals or anything like that?
You know what? I was just trying to get through one day at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where, especially with my sister. But no, I didn't see anybody really. No, I didn't have any visitors.
How long were you in treatment?
30 days. 30 days. I would like to talk about the aftercare part though, which is what the NHL kind of.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I do what I do now is I do the aftercare. We handle the aftercare. We have sober living, and we have IOP, PHP, and the part of the reason why.
Explain what those letters mean for our audience.
Intensive outpatient means that you're coming from a recovery center. Mark, please add on to this if you want. And those people will come for certain sessions, usually 3 hours in morning or night, 3 to 4 times a week. And then PHP is partial hospitalization. So people come there at 9 a.m. and then they'll leave at 5, and what they'll be provided is lunch. So they're there all day long, where IOP will come in for a session. We also have a mental health track, which is in Phoenixville as well. That's been really, really important. It's not just addiction, because sometimes people will come and they have nothing but mental health issues that they can't really attribute to an addiction. Now, sometimes we find out they're coexisting. But that's the biggest part, is what I wanted to get into, was this part I struggled with the most, was not being in the rehab. Everybody's safe in a rehab. It's when you get out of the rehab, where I basically got out. Here's the NHL spent $30,000, $40,000 to get a guy treatment. And the day I left, they said, good luck, go to AA.
You know,
I did, but that's not enough. You need to come out, especially if you're being white-gloved in the process and you don't have any other resources. They've got to get you on the right path to the proper aftercare so you can continue your treatment.
Well, it's like I'm a director of a maximum security prison out here, and the reentry is the most important. Just like you're saying, coming out of jail, coming out of rehab, you have to have something set up before you leave. Really,
100%. And that's been my gripe. I've been actively mentioned that on Twitter, on different shows. Like, if the leagues are doing this, it's great. They're getting guys the help they need, and it's easy for them just to cut a check. Right? And that's fine. But that's the easy part. The hard part is afterwards. It is, because it doesn't mean you go to rehab and all of a sudden, splash, you're cured.
Yeah.
It's not. It takes work every single day until you build yourself up to that part where you feel like you're safe again and you walk part of the world.
Chris Therien is our guest. We're talking about his life story, which is pretty amazing. 1-888-728-9941. Give us a call.
Well, and Chris, let me ask you this, with Pennsylvania Recovery Centers, was that one of the things that really drove you into aftercare? That's
exactly what it was. And I said, this is what I want to be. I knew people that had models for it. And I figured, you know what? I wasn't working. What do I want to do? And what I wanted to do was help people, because deep down I was helping people anyway, but I hadn't told anyone my story. So I said, you know what? I'm going to break out of this shell that I'm in, and I'm going to openly and honestly share my story with people so they know what I went through and to see if it works. And I had no idea what to expect. I had people tell me, oh boy, maybe you shouldn't do that. And I never thought of it like that. I was like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write the book. I'm going to tell a little bit of the story ahead of time. And so hopefully people can say to themselves, like, I'm not doing it. There's nothing in it for me. The only reason I tell my story is to hopefully help someone else out there that's struggling.
And I believe anonymity is the wrong way to go, except if you're going to lose your job or whatever. But anonymity keeps everything hidden in the back room.
I tend to agree with that, and I felt like I really broke out of a shell, and I felt like I was liberated. I didn't walk around ashamed of myself anymore. Like, the one thing with me is I realized in the world is that when you share a story like this, if there's 20,000 people that hear it, there's going to be 1 or 2 people that are going to make some snide comment.
Yeah, they don't.
And who cares? But then there's the other thousands of people that either know someone that's been affected by addiction, or they themselves are battling it. Most of the time, I get a lot of attaboys, from people, and I don't do it to get attaboys. I do it because if someone needs help, give me a call. They can reach me, like I said, at Bundy Recovery, which is my nickname. So they get me at bundyrecovery.com or Bundy Recovery on Facebook. And all you got to do is message us or fill in the sheet for us, and we'll get right back to you at Pennsylvania Recovery Center.
Before we end, you'll give that out again.
I will, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So is there anything you want us to ask you that could be a little embarrassing?
That's a great. And by the way, I asked Chris, I said, does he ever get nervous on the radio because me and Gary
He's not nervous.
We get nervous.
No, you guys shouldn't. You do a great job. It's just like having a conversation with your buddies, right?
Yeah,
and knowing that some people are listening, but we're trying to provide information. No, I don't. I think
I
used to get really, like, when I first started, I used to be all buttoned up and, like, even I used to forget names and stuff because I was thinking about it. I'm like, just go out and be yourself,
Yeah.
And if you slip up a word or forget it, nobody cares anyway because they're trying to get the whole point of the message. So,
when we started this, like 15 or 20 minutes beforehand, we were in here getting everything set. Now we stroll in 2 minutes beforehand.
Yeah. And every once in a while, he'll be like, and and he'll wander out during the break, and I'm just sitting here. Come on, Gary, get back in here. You know what I mean? Do you miss the locker room, by the way?
I do.
love the locker room.
The part I missed the most would have been the locker room. Yeah, because
the best.
That's the other hard part with professional sports too, because they'll take you from as a 20-year-old, right? So you're like, whatever you've done, if you just finished college or high school, or then you get on your pro debut, and then you go, 12, 13, 14 years where all you're doing is hanging around your best buddies every day, and it's like the greatest thing. You have friends that are built into your life. And then when you're done, they're gone. Yeah. They're gone overnight because you can't go to the locker room and see them the next day. You can make plans to see them. Some guys maybe are still playing. Some guys are done and they move back home. Mm-hmm. But that's the part of the game that I truly miss the most is the locker room and playoffs.
Did you get together with a group of players at all? You have a network?
See guys at alumni tournaments for golf alumni tournaments. Sometimes we play a charity hockey game. Last year we did. So it's always nice to see guys, as they come back into town and find out what they're doing, what's going on with their life. But the part is before, like, you're in every single day, you'd see those guys. Yeah. And so that becomes a little bit of a mental health challenge.
Yeah.
Because when you're done there, you can't just go in the locker room and hang out anymore. It's locker room. It's sacred, right? So once you're not part of that team, you're out, and you're out of the locker room.
And you miss it. And you had to – I'm picturing – because, the hockey locker rooms are the funniest place on earth, by the way. I mean, everybody's busting each other's chops. You had to be a terror in the locker room, busting people's chops.
I would like to think my teammates, if you asked them who would have been probably one of the bigger jokers, I would have said most guys would say it would be me.
That's what I figured.
I would bet on that one. But it was all done in good fun. And sometimes guys, and you need guys like that in the locker room.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have good characters. Jeremy Roenick, who went into the Hall of Fame this week, was another guy like that. Just tremendous guy in the locker room. Had a lot of fun, kept guys loose, and that's important.
Yeah, cool. Let's go through a couple. We have a lot of people watching this thing.
Sounds good.
Because of this guy. Todd Klotz, Francis Davitt. I don't know if I'm... Can you read these?
I don't think
Bill
I have him.
Kaminsky, Vince Velson, Eddie Tucka.
That was definitely wrong, don't you think, Chris?
Wait a minute, Tucker?
Tucker, no, that's what it was. Tucker. I got to say, Lou Montana's on here. I wanted to give him and wish him well. He was in a motorcycle accident, and it was a pretty serious accident, but he is alive and kicking still,
soon,
and
Lou,
he's toughest guy in the world. So get well, Lou.
Get well. John Gebhardt Jr., Linda Busarani Logue, Paulette Wiley, Andrew Hill, John Logue, Malvern, Pennsylvania, Debbie Reynolds, Stephen Ellis says to you, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired? Thank you, Bundy, for your service.
Yeah.
Nicole Dixon, I guess I shouldn't be chewing licorice.
Yeah, especially, well, I won't even get into that.
Okay,
you know what I mean? I won't even get into that.
Licorice chewing?
Yeah, well, he's got some stuff. We'll talk after the show.
Yeah. Jeremy Geyer, Colleen McLaughlin, Namazi. Can't anybody call him like Sam Jones? Do we say Brant Royal Norton?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we
Delco
did.
Stand Up.
Delco Stand Up, he says.
Is he from Delaware County?
Delco, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Delco clap.
Rick Michael, Josh Milanowski, Kim Carlance, Tony DeAndrea. And guess what? We have to go to a break. We'll be right back with Chris Therien.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
A cancer diagnosis can knock the wind out of you. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health can help. Our brand new Asplund Cancer Pavilion brings you 86,000 square feet of cancer-fighting science for truly comprehensive care. Backed by the strength of an NCI-designated cancer center. Call 1-800-JEFF now. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health. The power to out-science cancer.
Hey, this is Jackie Martling, and I listen to Clean and Sober Radio. This is still Jackie Martling, and you should listen to Clean and Sober Radio. Everybody should listen to Clean and Sober Radio.
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
All right, thanks for joining us again. Our guest is Chris Therien, really incredible hockey player. National Hockey League with the Flyers mainly. Had a great career, and like a lot of us, got in trouble with addiction. And he dealt with it, was in treatment, and the important thing now, he has been clean for, I don't know how many years.
Coming up on 14.
14.
One day at a time.
And he's given back. And, we always say, you get clean, you get sober, and then the ones that give back is the icing on the cake. That's the one. And you're doing it. So, it's almost like the most important part of your journey was not the hockey. It's what you're doing now.
It is, and I hear that a lot. I mean, when you look at the two, if you look at them as two jobs, I don't look at this as a job. One was more of a self-satisfying perspective, where you're you're playing for you, like you're trying to get there and stay there, and you're playing for your kids and your life and your family, and then afterwards you realize that there's another part of that too, which is far more meaningful because you have way more people involved, right? The public that, and I remember when I started out, someone said, man, you're going to help hundreds and maybe thousands of people. And it might be in the hundreds now, but you have to start somewhere. And it's 1 foot, one step at a time, and patience and being honest and totally honest is the only way that you can help somebody out in this. But it's giving yourself of time, and making the right decision so others can see that inspiration.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything negative about hockey, but one was entertainment.
It was.
And one is saving people's lives.
It was, yeah. It's exactly right, Gary. I couldn't have said it any better, and that's what I was trying to get to. One is just you're an entertainer. You're right. And it involves being performance-based, and the other one's totally giving of yourself to try to change someone else's life, right, and give them the same chance.
And when you change that person's life, how many generations, it could be, tens of thousands of people from one person, really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and you're right. And that's exactly right. And then when you pass that message on, I always tell somebody, you're now the messenger. It's your chance. It's your turn to go out and try to help that next person. So it's a beautiful thing. It really is. And I know Bernie Pront uses that word. It's a beautiful thing, but it is. I mean, and that's what it really is truly all about for me.
Yeah. And, Mark and I have been doing this for so long. And, we have fun, we joke around, but we know it's a serious subject. And we're helping people, saving lives maybe,
Well, and, I perspective, like as a counselor, I think of the kids. You know what I mean? This mom or dad that has full-blown addiction and these kids that are being traumatized. I think of the kids, too. Like, wow. Like, they can have a parent, that is getting sober. What I mean?
That's a great thing, Mark.
And,
it is, and we see a lot of that, right?
Yeah,
in our industry, and that's where I always tell somebody, and I'll tell somebody to their face, if you think you might feel bad, but if you want to feel good, have one of your kids in 2 or 3 years send you a letter where they tell you how proud they are of you, that you've turned the corner, that you're starting to become the person you want to be, and I have that. My kids are pretty appreciative, I think, at the end of the day of what I've been able to do. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't think any of us are, but drinking's not a part of my life anymore, and so I've cut that out of it. So if there's an issue, we'll deal with it head on in some other way, shape, or form, but it does not involve the fact that my addiction is part of it anymore.
Bingo.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. How old were your kids when you stopped?
Yeah, my oldest, Isabella, is going to be 26. So, so for the final time, she was 12, and for the first time I probably stopped, she was about 8. But she was always the one that noticed the most, and she'd pick up on it. She always knew, yeah.
How about the other girls?
They were younger, and they were mostly told. It was not kept a secret, and I didn't want it. When I got out, I wanted them to know. My son never really saw it. He was 2 or 3 years old when I stopped. Yeah. And I just tell him now, use your discretion. I don't drink for a reason. Yeah. My life was not good when I drank. And so I, excessively, it was, but that's what I tell my kids, and that's what I hope the messages they get from it. But I think they certainly appreciate the fact that I got myself to where I've gotten today. Yeah.
Sure. They got their father back.
Sure.
I guess we're lucky. Our kids have never seen us high.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Chris's son, Chris, is an amazing kid. We went fishing this summer, and he's just a great kid,
What's he do?
He's a football player. He's bigger than I am. He's just turned 18 a few days ago. He's massive. He's like 6'6", 275. and he's going to be a heck of a football player. He's a great kid.
Well, where is he? How old is he?
He just turned 18 this week.
So is he out of high school? Or
He's finishing his high school year, and as I said, he's going to Villanova. He'll be a freshman on their football team in the fall.
That's great.
Yeah, next
they have
fall.
a beautiful stadium there.
Gorgeous. It's old school. We went out on the trip. Coach Ferrante and his staff gave us this amazing tour of the place, and it was hard for Chris to say no to Villanova. He had almost 20 offers.
Really?
Yeah. So we were pretty proud of him, and again, to be close and to have a school with such great tradition in athletics as Villanova, we're very proud of him.
Was one of the reasons he picked Villanova how close he was to his family?
I think so, but that didn't matter to me. Like, if he said that I wanted to go to somewhere out in California and that made sense, I wouldn't have pushed back on him. Whatever was good for him. I trusted him enough to make the right decision, and he made the right decision.
That's good. It's a beautiful.
And Chris goes to every single game.
I don't miss a football game. That's why I said I couldn't do this show, Gary, because Mark kept asking me. I said I have to wait till my son's football's over on Friday nights.
Yeah,
because those games start at 6.
He told me he did.
And that's going to be so cool for you to be able to go to the Villanova games.
Yeah,
every
totally
week.
different next year. So he'll be a freshman, and again at the position he's an offensive tackle. And
He'll be the
plays
biggest kid there, I'm sure.
No,
right?
no. There's
Really?
big kids too. Yeah, he'll have to develop still and stuff. So they may even redshirt him his first year, or he'll get.
What's that mean, red shirt?
Where you don't play as much your first year, so they can keep you the extra year.
Yeah.
It's a position you have to be really big and strong at. And as big as he is, there's kids bigger and stronger because they're 3-4 years older.
Yeah.
Right.
I could have been a football player.
Oh, me
You're
too.
mature enough now, Gary. You never say never.
I
pal.
could hardly walk.
I turned down the NHL,
You did.
What does that stand for? Not what the National
Hockey League.
No.
What do you mean?
You did turn it down, Mark?
No. I would have loved
NHL
to
for
be.
Mark not happening lately.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mark, this is an honest program. Okay?
Yes. I was a bench warmer. I wanted to be a starter, and you know what I mean? And it was, I just sat on the bench the whole game. And in case unless we were winning by like 6 goals, they put you out there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
For the last minute.
You are a starter.
Thank you. Yes, on my men's league team I am. Well, I'm not always a starter, actually, but,
We didn't mention, this is our fundraising part of the year.
Oh, that's right.
If you're enjoying this show, we've been doing it for 13 years or whatever, please go to our website, cleanandsoberbroadcasting.com. Hit the PayPal button. If you want us to continue doing this and you're enjoying us, we don't care if you send $1, $5, $400. Is that the other one?
Or 4,000.
Or 4,000. And if you send 4,000, it will be you'll have dinner with Chris Therien. Okay?
We just volunteered. I think we should ask Chris first. Huh? But Well, if it's not Chris, you're going to have dinner with us.
You get the threesome.
The threesome.
Absolutely, we'll do it. Chris, thank you so much for coming
Chris.
on, man.
Yeah, it's my pleasure,
It's
guys.
always great having you. When Mark told me you were coming on, it was just fantastic.
Happy to come on anytime I'm available and you guys want me on, I'll be happy to come back.
Thanks.
Thanks,
so
Chris.
Much. Thank you so much,
guys.
Appreciate it.
Okay, if you or a loved one struggling with addiction, help is available. Please call 1-800-662-HELP. For Clean and Sober Radio, I'm Gary Hendler.
I'm Mark Sigmund.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the support, and best of luck to everybody. Later.
I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves, and I hope we pass the auditioning.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for all the support. Take care. Later.